Welcome all, welcome to this lecture of Object-Oriented Programming 1, and today we'll be continuing with Unit 4. Let me show the disclaimer, then we'll start the session. Okay, so in this session, up to now, what we have done is we have learned what are the features of Java, right? What are the OOP principles? Then we saw how to define classes, how to define the classes for objects, then how to define various constructors, and then we saw how to access the objects via reference variable, how to access objects, data and methods, that is the members of the object or the members of the class, and what's the difference between primitive types variables and reference types variables. And then we saw some classes like date class, random class, and then we started with static variables, constants and methods. Okay, we have seen that as an instance method can access the instance, access the static members of the class and also the instance members of the class. It can access these both, right? Whereas a static method can only access static members. Okay, it can only access the static members. It cannot access the instance members. That also we have seen till now, right? Then we saw the example, and then we also saw the concept of what? Static blocks. What is this? This is nothing but a static block. Okay, this is a static block, right? And then we saw an example of static demo, right? So see, this is a program. This is a very simple program. Check this out. What does this program do? It defines two classes. One is static demo, another is static by name. So this program will be running, this class will be running, and this is the class that it tests. Okay, what does it do? It says static demo.callMe. So from here the control jumps over here, which is a method, but not a simple method, not an instance method, it's a static method, right? So you can directly call it by the class name. And what does it do? It accesses the static variable A, okay, or the class variable A, right? And then we say system.out.println b is equal to static demo.b. So from here we also access the static variable p. Okay, so the first statement is what? Calling. This is calling a static method. Okay, and the second example is what? Second example is of accessing static variable. Okay, second example is of accessing the static variable. Okay, you can see static method and static variables both can be accessed using dot operator, but along with the class name. Okay, then we saw visibility modifiers. Okay, we saw how different visibility modifiers like public, private, default, and protected can be used, right? We saw how visibility modifiers applied in with respect to packages. If we have made a package and inside which we have two classes, okay, so each class can use each other, but if there is a different package, then the class inside it cannot access another class of a different package directly. This direct access is not possible, right? Sorry, actually this cannot access C1, so it cannot access this C1. This access is not possible. Why? because the scope of this class was default or package, but it can access C2. Why? Because it is public. Okay, we saw this thing, right? How visibility modifiers apply. Okay, so and then we saw this particular program where we have a class C, right, and inside which we have private variable and a private what method, right? And inside that main method we try to access its private variable and private method, which is accessible because we are accessing the private members in from inside the class itself. But if we make a different class and then we try to access this X or maybe this method, this access is not possible. Why? Because these are private and cannot be accessed outside the class. Okay. Now we have to start with what is data field encapsulation. Okay. There is a term called as encapsulation. Okay. So see what happens. Basically, let me show you in this manner what is encapsulation exactly. Okay. For example, you have a class. Okay, for example, you have a class, and in this class you have, let's say, variables. Okay, and let's suppose that there are other types of variables also. Okay, and you also have the methods. Let's suppose you have methods also. Okay. Fine. So what are these? These are all what? Methods. Okay. And what are these? What are these things? These are all variables. Okay. Now see, this red means private variable and green means public variable. This orange means it's a, okay, here also let me use the green line. So this is green and this is again green. Okay. And red means private one. Okay, so this is what, this is basically, this is a class which has got what, which has got, let me highlight this thing. This is basically a public variable. Okay, and this is what, this is a private variable. Okay, and this is what, this is a public method. Okay, and then we have private methods, and then we have private method. Okay, now see, since this is a class, what happens is that if suppose, let's suppose that this is the access, this is a scope. Okay, and now see what happens. Basically, this is the scope where someone can access from outside. Let's suppose that this is the scope where this outer rectangle represents the scope which can be accessed by outside people. So in that scope, which variables will come and which methods will come? Tell me. In that scope, obviously the what? The public variables will come. Okay, and public methods will come. Okay, public variables and public methods will come in that scope. Okay, and this private variables and private methods do not come in that scope. Okay, so if you want to give a direct access to outside the class, access to members from outside the class, this kind of access is possible in this region. Okay, that is outside the class. This is your actual class, let's say. So outside the class, access is this region, we say. And if you want to access, then in that region, that access is basically allowed to public variables and public methods only, and not to the private methods or private variables. Okay, so this is what is a kind of encapsulation. This thing says what? That the private data that you want to hide from the outer world can basically be be made private. The data that you want to hide from outside access, that should be made as private. So how do we allow access to the private variables? Then we can make public methods that will have access to the private methods. So for example, this method is using these two particular variables inside it, and this method is using this particular variable. So if someone accesses from outside these two methods, then he can indirectly access the private variables, right? Not directly, but indirectly. So this is called as what? The indirect access. This is the indirect access. Okay, someone calls this particular method, and that in turn uses this private variables. That is possible. That is purely possible. There is no issue in that, right? So when we use public methods to access private variables, that is the scenario which is called as an example of practical encapsulation. And encapsulation, what is encapsulation? Encapsulation is made from the word encapsulate. So capsule means what? Something that is hidden. It has got something that is hidden, right? So capsulate means, and to encapsulate means to cover something or to hide something. Or so basically this encapsulation is also known as data hiding. Here we do data hiding from the outside world. How do we hide the data? By making it private. Okay. So this is the example of encapsulation. This is how we visualize encapsulation. Okay, this is how you visualize the encapsulation. That this is the class inside which it has got variables and methods. And if you want to hide some variables or some data from outside world, you make it private. But still, if you want to make it accessible by indirect means, then you can make it accessible through public methods. As simple as that. Okay. So what is data field encapsulation? Let's see. Data field encapsulation basically is achieved by making data fields private. So it protects data and makes class easy to maintain. Okay, it's easy to maintain the class, and it protects the data. You cannot directly access and change it, right? So to prevent direct modifications of data fields, you should declare the data fields private using the private modifier, and that's why it is called as data field encapsulation. Okay. And private data field cannot be accessed by an object from outside. That's the main thing. Okay, from outside the class. Where? From outside the class. So that's why it does not allow direct access. Any other class cannot have direct access to the private member of a particular class. Okay, it can be only accessed from inside that particular class. Okay, so so what if we want to access that private field? So to make a private data field accessible, we provide a getter method to return its value. And also if we want the user, the outside from an outside user to, we want to allow that user to access it and also set its value, then we may use a setter method, okay, to set a new value. Okay, why we need this setter method? So that the private data field can be updated. Okay, so this getter method is also known as an accessor method or an accessor, and the setter method is also known as mutator. Okay, and what is the syntax of getter and setter method? See, if you have a property called as, let's say, age, right, and you made it as private, then you can use uh, a getter method to get its value. It will simply return the value. Okay, so if you have an int age, then for this getting this age, you can declare a method that will say, that will be public. Okay, it will return type is int and the name is get age. Okay, this is the method that we will use. Why? Because this age is a private variable, right? This age is a private variable, so we use a public variable so that we can return its value if if it is needed in programming. And to set it, we will have public void. Setter method does not set, does not return anything. So we say public void and set age, and inside it we pass some variable or parameter. So passing this parameter allows us to set the the private variable age's value. Okay, that is the that is getter and setter methods. Okay, this is the syntax. You say public return type and get property name. While you write the property name, you make sure that the property name begins with a capital letter. Okay, and similarly you say public void set property name and put some data type into it, and the set property name also follows the same naming convention. Okay, so check this out. Here we have this class circle. Inside this class circle we have a radius variable which is of type double. Okay, and it is also private. Okay, now what if we want to set this from outside the class? Then what we will do is we will provide a setter method. Okay, so check this out. This class is, this is the scope, this is the whole class. Here it starts and here it ends. Okay, and it defines a private double type of variable called as radius. Okay, and it has got what? It has got a constructor which which counts the number of objects. It has got a private static variable of type integer, count value 0. This basically is used to count the number of objects created. Okay, since this is since this is a static variable, it will be common in between all the objects and it will be available as a class variable, right? So once the class is loaded into the memory, and as soon as the objects are started getting created, then it will start counting there. So if you create an object, it means you are calling a constructor to create the object, and it means you are incrementing this count. Understand? So it means that this count will represent the number of objects being created. Okay. If you call the default constructor or the no argument constructor, then also it will increment. And if you are trying to create the circle by passing a radius, then that radius will be assigned to this this radius variable, that is this particular variable. Okay, and also it will increment the count. Now you also have a getter method, accessor method, to return the value of radius. so that the user can get the value of radius if he wants to read it. If the user wants to write the value, he can call the set radius method, pass some value to it, which will be assigned to this radius variable, which is this one, right? And now we also, since this count is also private, we can also, you know, access, we can get, say, a get count method. We don't need to set count method, because set count is not allowed to be done automatically. Sorry, it is not allowed to be done by the user. It should be automatically done when a constructor is called. So we don't give a setter method here for count. We give only the getter method for the count, which is also static, and it will return an integer. So basically it will return the value of count. Okay. And then we also can have a way and method called as get area. Okay, which is public, so that we can access publicly the area of the circle that we have created. So this is the class that we have created, right? And then we test that particular class by creating what? We first create a new circle object with radius 5, and then we say what? That this is the area of the circle of this particular radius is this much area. So we first get the radius, we print it out, and then we print the area also. Then we set the, you know, radius, we make the radius double. We may multiply the radius into 2 and set that value as the what? As the same C1 object's radius, right? So we just make the radius double. And then we again said that now the area of the circle with this radius is this much, right? And we can print the number of objects created. Since here only we have created only one object, that count will be only 1. But if we make more such objects, then that count will increase, right? So let me show you how this thing happens. First we make the class circle. Okay, let me make the class circle. Okay, so here in this unit 4, let me make a new program called as test circle count dot java, right? So here test circle count has come, and this main method will be there. Okay, before making the main method, let's make the circle class. So here we declare a class called as circle, right? In this circle class we have what? We have a private double variable called as radius. Okay, then we have a private integer variable called as count, which is equal to 0. But now see, this radius is an instance variable, whereas this count is a class variable. So we will make it as static. We will say this is private static int count. Okay, now we have made private variables. Now it's our turn to make the public methods. So before we make the public methods, let's make the what? Let's make the constructor. So this is the default constructor or no argument constructor, which will do what? Which will set the radius value to be 1 and will increment the count by 1. Okay. And similarly, we can have a circle what? A circle constructor, which is basically parameterized. So here we pass a double value, double D. and here this d can be assigned to radius. We can say radius is equal to d, and here also we will increment the count. So if user calls any of the constructor, it means if any of the two ways the user tries to create the object, he will be able to increment the count. Okay, which represents what? The number of objects created for this circle class. Now let's use the getter and setter methods, right? What is the syntax of getter method? It is public, then getter method returns something. What is it returning? Here it should be returning the radius, right? So it will be of type double, and the name is get radius. It does not accept any parameters and simply returns, say return radius. The value of the radius is returned, right? And if we use the setter method, then it is like this: public. It does not return anything. Remember, setter method does not return anything. So public void set radius, and it will have a parameter. It will accept parameters. Not only one, it can have a number of parameters. But right now we are only setting one variable, so it's good to have only one parameter, right? So normally that is the signature. It accepts only one single parameter. So here we want to set the radius, so it will accept a double variable d, and now this d can be given to radius, can be assigned to radius. So we say radius is equal to d. Okay, so now we have getter and setter methods which are public for this private variable radius. Now we also need to have a getter method which is public for this private count, and which is a class, which is a what? Which is a class variable, right? So what we will do is, let me say public, and here we say void and get count. Well, it is not return void, it returns an integer value. We say get count, and here we say return count. That's it. Okay, this get count does what? This get count returns count. Now see, since the count is static, that get count method is also static, right? So we need to make this as static. And we have one more method which is specifically for calculating the area, right? So here it is this method is public. It returns value double, and the name is get area, right? And this get area method will return what? It will return 3.14 into radius into radius. That's the formula of the area, right? So now we have created this circle class with what? With basically a no argument constructor, a parameterized constructor, then we have this get radius method, set radius method. Okay, then we also have this get count method and this get area method. So you can see all the methods are public. You can see over here all the methods are public and the variables are private, and this is class circle. Okay, now we have defined the class circle, okay, successfully. Now let's make use of it. So how do we make use of it? By saying circle C1 is equal to new circle. We'll create one circle with no argument constructor, and we'll create another circle C2 with a parameterized constructor. So we say circle 5.5. Okay. And now, since we have created two circles, let's calculate their areas, right? First, we need to set the radius for circle C1. Okay. Although it sets by default 1, let's remove that one part. We don't need it. It will be 0 only. So we need to set it over here. Let's create a necessity for setting the radius. Okay, so we say c1 dot set radius, this is 3.5. We said the radius is 3.5, right? And now let's print out what system.out.println. Here we say the C1 circle area is what? C1 circle area is C1 dot get area. Okay, and similarly we also print what? We also print C1 circle radius. C1 circle radius is what? C1 circle radius is get radius. Okay, so now the same thing will be repeated for what? For C2. Okay, we say C2 dot get radius and C2 dot get area. Okay, C2, C2. Okay, let's now run this out. Okay, what is the issue? Type circle is already defined. In where is it defined? Let's do one thing. Let me go to this circle and let me make it as a, let's call it as simple circle. Let's call it as a simple circle. Okay, now we are ready to go. Now let's run this class. Okay, so what we have got, see, you got the radius 3.5, area is this, C2 radius 5.5, area is this. Now we want to see how many objects have been created, right? We want to see how many objects have been created. So what will we do is we will simply say, first we will print this. Okay, we will say total circle objects created are what? How much? We concat to it saying simple circle. We concat to this by saying simple circle dot what? Get count. Okay, you can say simple circle dot get count. Now check this out. I say run. Total objects, circle objects created 2. What if we run this before? What will happen? What would it give us? What if we run this? We take this statement, we copy it out and put it on this line number 37 in the start of the main method. What will happen? What will it print? Or will it give error? Any error? What do you think? Will it print anything or it will give an error? What do you think? Tell me. What do people think? What will happen? It will print what? Okay, let's try. So people are saying that it will print 0. So let's say run it. Yes, total circle objects created are 0. So you see, before we invoke the constructor, there are no objects created. You know, it means that. Then we invoke the constructor of C1 and set its radius and then calculated the area. We created circle C2, calculated its area, and then we see that there are 2 circle objects created. You see, there are 2 circle objects created, right? So this static variable is basically used in this manner. You know, this is the best use of a static type of variable. You can define it so that you can, you know, count the number of objects created since the class has been loaded into the memory. Understand? That is the object of what? That is the objective of static variable. You can do what? You can basically count the number of objects created. Okay. So this is what we saw, right? We created two circle objects, got its, its access, its public methods, which accesses the private methods, okay, and also made use of a static variable to count the number of objects. Okay. Now let's see what happens when we pass objects to methods. Okay, we already seen before how do we pass arrays to the methods, right? Now let's see what happens when we pass the objects to methods. Okay, so see what happens when we are passing an object to a method is nothing but it is equivalent to passing the reference of the object, not the actual object. Okay, so you can pass objects to methods like passing an array. Passing an object is actually passing the reference of the object. The way we pass the array, actually the whole array was not getting passed, the reference variable was getting passed. Similarly here also the same thing happens. See, this is a test class, okay, where we have this inside this main method we say count my count equal to new count. So we make an object of this class count. In that basically we have this count variable. In the constructor, see, this is a constructor which can be public, okay, and this is a constructor in which we pass a variable which can be assigned to this count instance variable, and there is another default no argument constructor which basically assigns 1 to the count. Okay, now a count class has been made. Okay, now what we do is we say 0 times. A variable is called as times, we make it 0. Now we say for int I equal to 0 to 100, call this increment method and pass this myCount object which is of type class count, and pass this times value. What is that times value? That's nothing but a simple variable. Okay, so what happens, we are passing two things over here. We are passing two types of variables over here. Which are the two types? Tell me. This myCount is of type what? This myCount is of type reference variable, right? And this times is of type what? This times is of type primitive variable. Okay, primitive data type variable and reference data type variable. Okay, so we just use this method in order to show you how two different types of variables are being passed. Okay, so in this system.out.println, we say count is myCount.count, and then we again print times. So what happens is this increment method increments both. Okay, see, check this out. This is a static method, so it is directly called inside main, and it accepts count object and integer variable times. It increments the count value of C object and it increments time. So it increments this C count. Okay, we know that by default when we call this constructor, which constructor would have been called? Obviously this constructor would have been called. So the count value would have been made as what? 1, right? So now if the count is incremented, it will go to 2. And what will be the times value? It was 0. So it would be incremented to 1. So if you print this out, your output will be what? This one. 2 and 1. That will be the what? That will be the output of this program. Okay, sorry, that is what? That is output of the program. Okay, let me show it to you. We will make a class count. Okay, we will make a new class called as test count.java, and in this we also first make a class count. Okay, in this class count we do what? We have an integer variable count. Okay, let's make it as private, and we have the count what? We have the count constructor where we say let's do one thing. Let's call this as C only, right? So that you people don't get confused. So here we say C is equal to what? 1. Okay, and if we have a parameterized constructor, let's suppose we have a parameterized constructor, right? And it accepts the parameter as, let's say, int CNT. So then now the CNT will be given to C. Okay, so this is a single line constructor. So let me make it in a single line only. Let me, put it into a single line so that you people can understand. Okay. Now what we have two constructors, okay, and one private variable. That's it. This is what makes the count class. And here in test count, what we will do is in test count, we will be making a count object. Okay, we say count C1 is equal to new count, and here we say int times is equal to 0, and now we pass this to what? To the count object. Okay, sorry, to this increment method, right? And that is, count, that is passed how many times? 100 times, almost 100 times this increment method is called. And so the output will not be limited to 2 and 1, but this count will be incremented 100 times. This times will be incremented 100 times, and then it will be displayed. So what will be the output? Let's see. For int I equal to 0, I less than 100, and I plus plus. In this we say increment what? Increment my count, not my count. Let's call it as, we have called it as C1, right? So we say C1 and times. We pass this to, and we have a void increment method which is of type static, and it takes a count object C and an integer n. Okay, inside this what it does, it simply says C dot, what is the value of this okay, so we had made it private, right? So let's not make it private, let's make it simple one, a default one. So int C, now here the C will be accessible, right? So let's make it as, call it as the count only. Count, a smaller count, this is smaller count. Okay, so we call it over here C dot count plus plus. We increment the count, and now we also increment n. What would be the output? Tell me. What would be the output when we print this things? System dot out dot println, and first we print what? First we print count is what? C1 dot count. Okay. And then we print what? Then we print times. How many times have we made this count? So we simply here say times. This is the times that it was incremented. Okay. So what will be the output? Tell me. What could be the output of this? What could be the output of this do? Will it be 100, 100? Yes. 0 to 99 for both? Okay, Abhishek is saying no. 100 times? Oh, no, no. Okay. Let me run this. See what happens. All your answers will be falsified when I run this. Check this out. Count is 101, whereas the times is 0. Why it is 0? Why is the times not incremented? Yes, any reason for this? For the times not being incremented? Yes, any specific reasons? Count is 101, times is 0. See what happens. Here is the code. For loop has got only one statement. Huh? If you don't understand, I will just put curly braces in front of these. So you will understand now that for loop has got only one single statement. Huh? So see now what happens, let me show you. Basically, what happens over here is, when you run this, when they run this, test count, control enters over here, it creates a count object. Okay. So let's say C1 of type count has been created in memory. Okay, a count object has been created. What has it got? It has got a variable called count of type int, right? And since we are calling the default constructor, the controller will go over here and it will create count equal to 1. So what happens is, by default, this count value now has got value 1. Okay. Now what does we do? What does this code do? It determines, it declares this times equal to 0. So now, in stack, what we have is, in stack we have C1 and times, which is equal to 0. Okay, this is the stack that has been created. In which method is it created? For which method it is created? For main method, because these variables are declared in main method, right? So this is the stack where the variables are stored, and this is the heap, okay, where the objects are stored, and this C1 points to that particular object in the memory. Okay, C1 points to that particular object in the memory. Okay, now see what happens. The for loop runs from 0 to 99, right? The for loop goes from 0 to 99. So this increment method is called 100 times, right? And we are passing C1 object to it each and every time, and times variable to each and every time. So what happens? The C1 gets passed over here to this. The C1 gets passed to this count C variable, and this times gets passed to this n variable. So in the stack of increment method, what do we have? We have a C, and we also have n. Okay, in the stack of which method? Increment method. Okay, this is the stack of increment method. Let me specify. This is stack of main method, and this is the this is the stack of increment method. Okay. Now see what happens. As soon as this C1 gets transferred to this C also, oops, sorry, I just, this is the stack of increment method. Okay, now so see what happens. As soon as we transfer this C1, which is an object of type count, to this reference variable C, so this C also starts pointing to this count where C1 was pointing. Since this is transfer of reference variable, not the transfer of object. Remember, we are transferring the value of reference variable C1. Okay. And what is this? When we pass this times to this n, what is passed? This value 0 is being passed to this n. So now the n has got value what? N has got value 0. So we increment count c dot count plus what happens? This count gets incremented. Whereas when we say n plus what happens? This n gets incremented, which is local to this method. And this n does not have anything to do with this times. It is not that the name is different, that's why, but the scope is different. What is the scope? Here the scope of n variable is a local scope. N is a local variable to this increment method. So whatever changes we make to n does not get reflect onto times. And basically what is this? This times value is passed to n, so it is called as passed by value. And this C1 is a reference variable whose value is passed to this reference variable C, so it is called as passed by reference because C also starts pointing to the same object to which C1 was pointing. Okay, so there are two things happening in the same statement, in this increment call. One is what? Pass by reference, and another value is being passed is pass by value. This is what is happening. Okay, this is basically the example of what? This is the example of pass by reference and pass by value. Okay, understand what is this? So that's why you know this count always gets incremented. The count of this object C1 always gets incremented, whereas this n gets incremented, but that does not show any effect on this times. And that's why we get the output as what? We get the output as 101 because we already had 1, so it gets incremented 100 times, so it becomes 101. And times was local to main method, so there was no change on times. You see? Okay, so Arshit is saying in line 16, should there be C1 dot times? Where? Here? No. This times is declared inside the main method. Check this out. This is the main method inside which we have declared times. So we cannot say C1 dot times. No, this times is local to this main method. If we say C1 dot times, no, if we say over here C1 dot times, then that is not local to main method, but that is meaning as that is what? That is the instance variable. Right now this count is what? Count is instance variable. So count can be accessed by C1 dot count, by saying C1 dot count. But if we say C1 dot times, then it means that times is also an instance variable of class count, but that's not the case. Times is declared inside the main method. So it is what? It is basically a local variable. Okay, it's a local variable, and that too of type primitive type. So whenever it is passed into a method, it is passed by value. Okay, fine. So that's it for day. Any doubts, please do let me know. Okay, let me stop the recording and let me stop the presenting.